Kia ora, Marty. How are you, mate?
Kia ora, comrades. How you doing?
Yeah, we're interesting. we're trying to mull this all over, and I think most people are seeing things like tax on internet gambling and some things as not being necessarily a bad idea, but still trying to burrow down into the overall picture going, but what else does this mean? We haven't yet kind of delved into the housing, the international housing, the 15% yet, but how about, seeing you've just joined us, we've looked at a couple of stories. You give us your initial thoughts on that, then we'll play this one more story about housing, and then we'll get into that as well. What do you think about the announcement today?
Oh, I think it's absolutely outrageous and it's disgusting. I've waited to see what national solution is. What is the great vision that the opposition, the main opposition party of New Zealand, is promoting, and what they've come up with is such a disgrace. It is I think it's obscene. I think it's so backward, and I think it's so brutal and stupid. And there are so many interconnecting parts that revolt me and disgust me. So please forgive me if I throw up a little bit in the back of my throat as I'm explaining all of this. Please forgive me. What we saw today, the headline is $250 a fortnight. And that's all they want you to look at. They just want you, I'm going to get $250 a fortnight, $250 a fortnight. What a load of crap. Minimum wage people are going to get $10 a week. People are on the average wage $25 a week. $250. They just want to look at the headline and not at the fine print. And what is who's going to benefit are rich landlords. They are the ones who are going to benefit most from this. And this is where the obscenity part comes in, because where they are getting the money to give these rich landlords this unbelievable tax cut, where they're getting the money, they're taking it out of the 20-hour free early childhood education for 2-year-olds, right? What kind of political party takes funding away from children so that their rich landlord tax mates get a better tax deal? Then they're taking money out of public transport for poor people, for young people, for beneficiaries who need that public transport discretion and that subsidy. Poor people spend about 20% of their bloody week-to-week pay on transport, just getting around. So public transport and reducing that is a way of putting money directly into poor people's pockets. They are taking this out. They are giving rich landlords a tax break by taking out public transport. And the third area they're taking the money out of is out of environmental programs that have been paid for by ratepayers and by road users to mitigate climate change. And I find that last part just repulsive. And the interconnecting part of it that makes it sickening is the real estate pimps have poured millions of dollars into donations into the National Party so that the National Party is going to remove the foreign buyers ban to inflate the house prices. That's the only economic plan they've got now, right? To just force prices to go back up so their foreign millionaire mates can buy a house, but domestic Kiwis are locked out of home ownership. We have the highest level, the lowest level of home ownership in 70 years. We're spending $1 million a day kettling beneficiaries into unsafe motels. We're locking generations out of home ownership, and we've got 100,000 homeless. What was National's vision? And they released it today. And their vision is, we're going to take off the poorest and most vulnerable so rich landlords can get a bigger cut of the tax pie. I just think it's appalling and sickening.
I just hope that at some stage we get a clear understanding as to what you really think, Bomber, because, I'm just...
Brother, I'm not holding back. I'm so disappointed. So disappointed.
And when you think
big plan.
When you think about them and, proselytizing family values and sort of, these evangelicals and, for the kids and all that kind of stuff. And as you say, then they're pulling money out of, early childhood education. And it's revolting. It's repugnant. And as you say, they're trying to sell it as for the squeezed middle, but the ones that are going to make the most out of it through the bright line tax and that kind of stuff are their wealthy mates. So actually, even though the tax might not look like that, through some of the other changes to help fund the tax is going to help make the rich richer.
Yeah, I literally heard a piggy bank break during that announcement. It's good marketing. I think it'll play in headlines, and people that'll make their judgment on who they're voting for just based on headlines, and they ignore the Greens and they'll just go with one of the two main parties. I think it'll work, and I think we'll be gnashing our teeth over it for months.
Unless they start listening to us. Hey,
I don't think it will work, and I don't think it will work for the following reason. People are hurting so much. They're looking for real solutions, and they're not stupid. They can see a scam when they smell one. This is just about robbing poor people to pay rich people. And I don't think New Zealanders are that easily. I don't think they're that gullible. I think they see through that self-interest, that venal, naked self-interest. They look at the real estate pimps pouring donations in, and lo and behold, they're also going to give, let's not forget, they're also going to give landlords the right to throw you out onto the street, right? I mean, they're giving landlords the right to throw out on the street. They're giving them back all their tax breaks, and they're going to remove the foreign buyers ban so the prices go. I mean, it's a party of landlords. And I think that tenants and renters who are about to get smashed have now got every reason, who have felt quite apathetic, because they look at the solutions from Labor. Oh, you're going to take GST off my banana. That's not helping me, man. That's not helping me. But when they look across and see what the alternative is, they've got every reason to vote in October.
Let me say this, and this is what I think all political parties miss. If we're in a time of strife and a time we're struggling, and individually or as a community, what I want to see is meaningful difference. That's what I want to see in a political party. I want to see meaningful difference. Heather Duplessis-Allen in March last year mocked what Labor did by calling it what did she call it? The block of cheese cuts that Labor was doing. And that was $27 a week. $27 a week. She called it the block of cheese cuts and mocked it for being worthwhile or worthless. I hope to get to see what she references this one at, giving the lowest and poorest workers $10 a week. Marty, the other thing that we've already said is, because they're doing this absolutely devious thing about talking about fortnights, this $26 a fortnight for pensioners, that's per person, so it's $13, so it's $6.50, so it's actually $6 a pensioner per week. Let's just and I'm furious, Marty, and I've already gone off in the show once, but you're joining us now, so I can give it to you again, because the fucking mainstream media are repeating the fortnight numbers. They're talking about like the fort. So they're actually giving National free exposure of the narrative National's trying to sell, which is that $250. Sorry, up to $250, kind of like based on a true story. And so the mainstream media is actually going, okay, National, we'll put your talking points out there and we'll keep talking. Why aren't they saying $10 a week? 3 didn't do it, 1 didn't do it. They used a fortnight just like National did. It fucked me off, man.
I know what this budget this is. It's not the block of cheese. It's the Hoyts. It's the Hoyts tax cuts. It's enough for a pensioner's pass to the movies every fortnight.
No more DVDs.
The kids. Yeah, no more DVDs. We'll go to Hoyts. You had to pay for your own ice cream though, Nana. Just a ticket. And only on Tuesdays, and only with your gold card.
They're very middle class worries, aren't they? They're middle class problems. How are we going to do date night this week? How are we going to do movie night? A lot of Kiwis are just holding on by their bloody fingertips. And it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be beneficiary, you could be working class, you could have a mortgage. I mean, people are having to find $700 a fortnight for their mortgage payments right now. You know, people are when they go to the supermarket, they feel mugged. Every single week you go in like bracing, oh my Lord, how much is it going to cost this week? And you're always shocked. Every single time you put that bloody petrol pump in and you go, oh my God, it's costing me so. The real hurt, the real pain is on so many people across society. And all National solution was, let's make love to the landlords while renters and working people can go fuck themselves. I mean, it's just such an outrageous abuse of political power, and it's being sold to us as this is for the squeezed middle. There isn't going to be a middle after this, you know.
Hey, I think what we'll do is let's have a look at this clip, because I do want to talk specifically about the housing idea and especially around the 15% tax. So let's have a bit of a squiz at what News Hub and how they reported it tonight, and then we'll keep going on this to do specifically around housing.
Labor is calling the foreign buyers element of National's tax policy a voodoo money fantasy plan.
But as political reporter Amelia Wade explains, there are legitimate questions being raised about where the buyers are coming from and what it'll do to the housing market.
For sure.
Here in Auckland Central, almost 1 in 5 homes used to be sold to foreigners. But the red light on overseas buyers would be turned green if New Zealand gets a blue government.
Fantastic idea, and I don't know why it hasn't been done before.
New Zealand's it's not for foreign interests.
I don't mind foreign investment in this country, as long as it's taxed.
And taxed they would be. Handsomely, in fact. National would only let foreigners buy homes over $2 million, and that'd be taxed 15%.
That other jurisdictions have taxes on foreign purchases at a range of levels. Vancouver, 20%, New South Wales, 8%.
Those are two of the most expensive places in the world for housing.
The two issues are not linked. What we're saying very clearly is that actually what you see when you see taxes or foreign buyer taxes put in place, we think that's a really good way to stop speculation.
National's entire tax plan depends on sucking $3 billion out of foreign buyers over 4 years.
Our modelling assumes fewer than 2,000 transactions will occur.
In 1 year, there were 4,200 homes sold for more than $2 million.
Half now have to go to foreigners.
Half of those to be to foreign buyers, and then for them to keep buying and buying and buying.
So it's a big chunk of the overall support for this programme. The reality is that we have no evidence to support that this money will turn up.
And if or when it does, Labor says it will drag up house prices, combined with National's promises of tax breaks for landlords and letting investors sell houses tax-free after 2 years instead of 10.
Then it comes to the housing market, which National will be pouring petrol on. They will lock first home buyers out.
Foreign buyers and immigration are two cornerstones of National's tax plan. And so, sure as the sun rises, Winston Peters rose again today and issued a slam statement saying it was a foreign buy-up, which doesn't stack up.
Are you not just giving Winston Peters another platform to run on?
What we're talking about here, and I think it's really important for you to understand, it's not political. We're actually here to deliver and
how patronising is that? You have to understand. Not political.
And there's an election coming.
And Amelia, the party.
All right, there we go. That's what we want to do. Okay. So let's get into this. So some of the numbers. Let's just say 4,000 houses over $2 million sold. They want to sell 2,000 of those to foreign buyers. So what's going to happen is all those Kiwis who have the kind of income to do that, they're going to take a jump down. They're going to start buying the houses between 1.5 and 2 million when they get outbid by someone from Qatar. Then the people who are going to buy those are going to drop down to buy the between 1 and 1.5 million. Then the people who are going to buy those are going to drop down. And then, of course, it's going to trickle down that old turn to the bottom, where the people who are at the bottom are going to struggle more and more and more to get into houses. On top of that, it also means those people who are coming in from Qatar, USA, Canada, England, whatever, are going to come in with pounds, sterling, push the prices up because they just want it because they want it, and it's all going to flow on in. This is their plan, Marty.
The only economic plan they have is to inflate house prices just the way John Key did. The secret to John Key's time and power was that every single year, people who had property, they were gaining more in their capital gains than they were from their actual salary. And you didn't care about children living in cars or state house tenants being thrown out for false meth tests or mass surveillance or any of the other nonsense that the national government got itself into. You didn't care because every single year, John delivered you more in the capital gains than you were earning, and you were secretly grateful, and you keep voting the bugger in. And that's National's secret to success. That's where Luxon wants to go. But what's most amazing is the level of propaganda and how clever it is. Here's what actually happened. What actually happened is National came out and said they are going to remove the foreign buyers ban. But we're not talking about that. Yeah, they've gone straight into we're going to tax these people and let's talk about the numbers and their magical. The tax thing is bullshit. It's the smokescreen. The fact is they're removing the foreign buyers ban. And this is going to be really problematic because it allows for foreign speculation in our marketplace to do exactly what you said, push up those house prices, create a fake and false sense of economic growth, and absolutely price another generation of New Zealanders out of living in their own homes. And it's just so venal, particularly when you connect it back to the real estate industry, who have been donating all this money into the National Party. I just think we are going to see a level of crony capitalism now that will absolutely astound us and put all of Labour's sins in just as childish mistakes. Whereas I think we're about to see a pathological level. I mean, last week you had Simeon Brown on Q&A singing the praises of intercity buses, and lo and behold, intercity buses were donor to the National Party. Then you had Chris Bishop out there pimping for that property deal. Oh, and lo and behold, the developer happens to be a donor for the National Party. I mean, there is a level of crony capitalism and privatization and public-private partnerships being lined up in the background, an orgy of free market capitalism that I just don't think we've seen the likes of in this country since Rogernomics.
You're annoying some people watching, Bomber. But, Pursuit says you got him gassed. He wants to break shit. So just be careful.
Sorry.
Hey, just before you jump into it, the other thing I was going to throw in here is, where are these foreign buyers going to go? Obviously, they're going to go to Auckland, because they're only going to go to places where there's plenty of houses worth more than $2 million. So they'll go to Auckland. A place where they're just taking the tax, going to take the tax off fuel. They're going to put more pressure on the infrastructure. But the other place they'll go is fucking Queenstown and Central Otago. Now, for the person working in the bar, living in Wanaka at the moment, who's already struggling to find houses, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to all these fucking essential workers that we loved and clapped for? Oh, when COVID came, because they stayed and they delivered us our food. And now we're getting a government coming in going, but now foreign buyers are going to come in and buy up all the property where you need to live, and you can move to the outskirts, and fuck you guys. But we'll give you $10 a week. Hey, that's pretty good. Sorry, Joe.
I was going to say, just when you talk about cronyism, right? What's Paula Bennett up to these days? She's a registered real estate agent who is shelling harder than anybody has shelled fundraising for the National Party. And she's using her real estate contacts to do that, and is funneling enormous amounts of donations. And then we have this that is going to benefit the industry that she nominally works in. It's just so bald-faced out there, wearing high-vis, going, look at me, but don't do anything about it. Like, you're talking about getting out there and breaking shit. I'm ready to flip over fucking cars and go, can't you see this? Does no one have a problem with this? So,
there's one other part of this, Chewie, though, as well. It's also putting more fees and taxes on migrants coming to the country. So therefore, you're going to need to be wealthier to come to the country. So you're going to be rich to buy a house. You let in scot-free. No more, overseas investment office, probably? No IOO. And you're going to have to pay more money to come to the country so the wealthy can afford it. And it's just going to be a cycle of wealthier, more financially able people coming to New Zealand, buying houses, making it more difficult. Maybe not for the wealthy in New Zealand. They can still get, rather than their $2.8 million house, I'll have to settle for a $2.1 million house. But certainly the trickle down that will do is make it far more difficult for those at the bottom.
Now, if I took the time to shave my entire head and buy a blue suit, I could solve this. Right? Because we don't want to scare away foreign investment into the country, right? We want to bring in money from overseas into New Zealand. That's good for us, right? But why would we funnel that money into unproductive assets? Why would we do it? The house is just going to sit there and produce nothing apart from capital gains for whoever buys it. Why can't you just make it that, hey, look, do you want to come into New Zealand and invest in a New Zealand industry, a New Zealand business? Someone that's making something. We're going to make it easy for you to do that. We're going to make sure that the carpet's rolled out for you. I don't have a fucking problem with that. But it's when we're buying and we're forcing to buy and sell old houses to each other at inflated rates and produce nothing. Like, everything's invested in property because we've spent 30 years saying this is the safest way to invest your money. It just grows. You don't have to do anything. How much money did you make in your job last week? My garage made more than that. Get fucked. You know, this party of business, this party of numbers, it's just missing this completely because they've all fallen for it as well. They've got property portfolios out the arse, and they will benefit from it directly. John Key sold his house that was just basically, a hair away from just money laundering, And
but that's actually a really good point, Chewy. The point about the houses, we all know that Luxon has 7 houses, and they're saying like we're going to get $80 a week. No, hang on, Brightline test gone. Changes to the rental opportunities. No. That's not all the benefit you're getting from what you're announcing today. It's not just $80 a week so you can take your kids to the movies. There's far more than that if you've got a portfolio as well.
Yeah, it just stacks. It just stacks and stacks and stacks.
Yeah.
It's death by cuts, and the cuts are coming from you, and they're going to this guy because he gave National $500,000. Because we've got 2 problems there. We think that houses are a great investment, and we've stacked the deck to make that possible. And we're not doing enough to keep money out of politics. Nationalize it. Publicly funded.
Completely agree with you.
Another thing. Free buses for everyone wasn't the number that was bandied around, 50 million a year. Everyone, just remove the barrier. It doesn't matter whether you're a kid, a pensioner, low income, whoever, you want to use public transport, you get on the bus. It's free. It's $50 million. The benefits are huge. That's it.
I think where things are going to come to a head will be 2nd or 3rd week of September. We have to open our books as part of our democratic process so that every political party going in to the election and the public themselves can see exactly where the state of accounts is for the government. I believe that what we will see in those numbers will be so extreme that you'll have an almost sense of economic crisis hit New Zealand. All eyes globally are going to be on our books because we are going to be able to provide a level of insight into the Chinese economy that few other countries are going to be able to share publicly. And there's a lot of global focus on China at the moment because there is a real fear that they have gone into contraction economically and that things are actually a lot worse in China than we know. And what the books will show us is how steep a fall off in Chinese trade has happened and how steep the cost to our economy and how much exposure and overexposure the New Zealand economy has to China. And I think those numbers are going to be so bad that we'll see a run on the markets. I think people will suddenly start seeing their Kiwi saver getting the shit kicked out of it. And I think a sense of economic panic will come in. And I think that politically how it will play out is Labour will step up and say, we looked after you during a crisis, during the very last crisis, COVID. We stepped in, we looked after you, we got you through it. Who do you trust to get you through this crisis? Do you trust us or do you trust David Seymour and Chris Luxon? And I feel that when New Zealand falls over, they want someone to help them up. And I think that they could see that Grant Robertson and Chris Hipkins would help them up. Whereas I think their sense of David Seymour is that he'd take you while you were down. And he would say, get up, you lazy bastard.
Yeah, but that's implying, Bomber, that National can't sell the narrative that we're in this place because of Labour. So National needs to be in the place to sort out because we're here because of them.
The really quick response. No, and that's true. And if they can hook it on Labour, you're right, it'll play out that way. But I don't think that's the way it'll go down. If it's a Chinese shutdown, if the economy in China, if it's an external offshore thing, Labour won't get blamed for it. It'll be shit. This is what's happening in China. Our exposure to China was generated because of John Key's all our cows in one Beijing panic policy for 9 years, where they dairy intensified, where the banks came forward and said, we'll lend you money, but you have to use it to intensify. So all these farms got up to their balls in debt to the banks because they'd borrowed so much for the dairy intensification. And the problem with that all our cows in one Beijing panic was that when the Chinese mega farms came online, using our dairy stock that we sold them so cheaply. When the mega farms they won't need us as a supplier any longer. And so you've got these mega dairy farms coming on board on top of an economic slowdown in the Chinese middle class who aren't buying our stuff anymore. That won't go on Labour. It'll go on, that's China. And I think there'll be a sense of economic panic.
I hope you well, I don't hope you're right that that's going to happen, but if that does happen, I hope you're right, because remember, we have very short memories. People aren't very smart in any country, because like National was able to nail down this, 15-year-olds in school today are performing so badly under Labour. They're performing badly because of fucking national standards implemented by National, that all the teachers said this is going to happen. So saying that they'll stick it on John Key, or it was under John Key's watch, National standards is what's given us these 15-year-olds underperforming now. Yet National's narrative enough has still been able to stick it to Labour. So I hope you're right but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Just going back to COVID, the left never makes, and Labour never make, the strong argument of, hey, we are where we are because of decisions we all collectively made and we all sacrificed with during the height of COVID, right? We've lost 3,200 New Zealanders to COVID. Now, if you compare us on size to any other bloody country in the world, it would have been about 11,000, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, Labour collectively looked after us all and saved us all and saved 7,000 lives, for Christ's sakes.
Yep.
And we so quickly forget that. And yes, we had to borrow a lot of money to look after everyone. Yes, it's caused all sorts of problems with crime because people who in an unequal society sacrificed unequally, and it's caused all sorts of disruptions. And yes, it's stressful, and yes, it's difficult, and yes, it created inflation, but it saved 7,000 lives. And I think
100%.
that Labour need to remind people that that's what we all agreed, and that's what we sacrificed for,
100%. We've said that numerous times on the show, Bomber. It's like the debt we're in today means we have more New Zealanders, and I'm okay with that payoff. Yeah, 100%.
Right,
100%.
Absolutely. Preach. Amen.
Hey, listen, we're gonna wrap up shortly. Unless there's anything else you specifically want to say about this, because we want to ask you about Ilam, seeing you were there last night, and just get a bit of a vibe for it. We saw the poll, the Taxpayers Union poll. We talked about it last night. Raf also talked about, I've got some secret polling that's been leaked to me. It looks a bit better. A top done? They look done according to the Taxpayers Union poll. It doesn't look like a very likely chance.
I think that Labour supporters and Green supporters need to look at those numbers and see that their own candidates aren't going to get there. Sarah Palin, I just don't think will win it. I don't think Mike will. But they could coalesce around one. They could coalesce around RAF and send a much clearer signal. So it's really up to those Labour and Green supporters who are voting for a candidate who won't win it. But they could swap votes, and so it gives for those who are paying attention and those who want to change, they see a blueprint there. I think it was really interesting. It was a debate where I think Ilam would be lucky to be served by all four of them. They were all decent human beings who were making the step up to get into politics. There was a level of friction and aggression, and you just sort of talk to people afterwards. There's a lot of anger towards Labour over COVID and the lockdowns, and whether that's fair or unjustified, it's there. And what I found interesting was the Māori Party polling so well on the fringes. I mean, this is a party I think polled 0.2% in the 2020 election, polling 4%. There is something going on in the Māori electorate. I think that it's really unique, and we're going to see quite a surprise on election night. Labour's doing poorly out in some of these areas. There's going to be a real backlash, but National's not creaming it. National's not waltzing in. There's still, I think the biggest thing about the debates and the polling so far is the high number of undecided. People are sitting on the sidelines going, I don't know who to vote for. It's like, this is bad, but this is worse. And so I think the attention to the debates this year around, I think, will be higher than ever before.
All right. Good. Anything you add to that, Chewie?
Because we're going to have a blast on that one. Look, just anecdotally, right, in my little lefty echo chamber, I'm seeing a lot of chatter of people going, "Oh, I don't know who to vote for, Greens or Te Pāti Māori." And it is like Labor's not even being considered at this point. It is just like Greens are doing great stuff, but they're doing, they're well over the mark. Maybe my vote's better served with Te Pāti Māori because I like what they're doing. So I wonder how that's going to flow through to election day.
I think the strategy is. I think the strategy has got to be this. Look, we have to get some progress. We cannot. One of the problems we've had over the last 6 years is rather than increasing the capacity of the state and actually putting taxes on the rich, we've just played bureaucratic background games of moving the bureaucracy around in certain Rubik cubes. So we've got more identity now and more diversity being, verbally and presented. And we've just gone, well, that'll be enough. When actually what we needed was not a bureaucratic shift in the background. We just need more schools, more hospitals, more actual infrastructure, and we need to tax it from the rich to be able to do it, right? But because for the last 6 years we haven't had the courage and the focus to be able to get that through, what we require, I think, this time around is a 100-day plan. People are hurting, and they're hurting right now. So there has to be we will get this done in the first 100 days of being sworn in. There has to be an immediacy, and and this is the only way you make it work in a democratic society. Before the professional managerial class consultants and the corporates get involved and make sure their interests are looked after, and before the self-serving bureaucrats and mandarins who want to build their next glass palace for their bureaucracy, before they get to involve and screw things over and make sure your plans never get passed, you have to hit them in that first 100 days. And so this change has to go through immediately. Where Labour is they've got to hold the middle. They've just got to hold the middle. Where progressives have got to think about is the Greens, and they've got to think Te Pāti Māori. And my argument for the Māori Party is John Tamahiri. Because it is going to be his negotiating skills, I think, when he sits down with Chris Hipkins and goes, oh, yes, you are going to put a wealth tax in. Oh, yes, you are going to put a ghost tax. Oh, yes, you actually need to force Labour to be progressive. If you look at Mikey Savage, right? Michael Savage, everyone talks about Michael Savage. We all love Michael Savage. The truth about Michael Savage is he needed his socialist caucus to force him to be progressive and to start the welfare state. And so I think we're going to have to force Chippy to do it. And the reason why I'd say Māori Party over the Greens, bless the Greens. I love the Greens. I voted Green most of my adult life. But they've got all the offensive capacity of Moss. And they're just not staunch enough to force Labour into making changes, where I think the Māori Party are disruptors. And they have got no problems going in there and forcing Labour to do something progressive. And so that's where I think that the progressive vote has got to go with the Māori Party. Their tax policy is as close to socialism as we're going to get in this country. It really is. And I think that if he is able to get in there, what we'd be looking at is a Labour-led minority government with supplying confidence from the Māori Party. And the Māori Party would say, okay, well, these are the three bottom lines. We want GST off all food. We want this and we want this. And they've got to be broad enough policies that impact and benefit all working New Zealanders in this country. And if they're able to do that, then they go sit on the crossbenches. And if and policy will come to them and they'll vote on a policy platform. If the Māori Party are too crazy with their demands on policy, Labour can always go to National, right? I mean, National and Labour vote 70% of the time already. So it's not such a great leap of, I just think we'll get a different kind of MMP where more voices are involved in the decision making. And you know what? I think that would probably end up with a better quality democracy.
Really interesting, Marty. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
We need to send you some gear. So at the moment, we've got a current merch drop where we've got two lots of things going on. One of them is a T-shirt or a hoodie that says, "If the left vote, the left wins." And that's in both green and red.
I'm going to get that.
Okay. Do you want a hoodie or do you want a T-shirt? We'll talk to you after.
Hoodie.
All right. So the hoodies are there is options here. I'm telling other people this because there's a promo code on tonight. So you can get a red one with you can get a red one with white print. You can get a red one with black print. You can get a green one with white print, or a green one with black print. If the left vote, the left wins. That's our That's our special for leading up to the election, and then we've got just standard BHN gear as well. And if people,
that's amazing, and I'm going to have to wear one of those in the debates. That's so cool.
Brendan and Gareth have bought while we've been live streaming, so thanks to Brendan and Gareth for buying. Remember, if you do buy while we're live streaming, you get free delivery, and the promo code tonight is $10 a week. Bomber, that's the promo code for tonight. $10 a week.
Amazing.
Because they got to do it. And every night we give a promo code so people get free delivery if they purchase during the show. But of course, it's available all the way through it. And for people to know, we do our first order tomorrow night. So if you want to get it delivered to you next week, you get your order in before the end of tomorrow night's show, and you'll get it by next week. And Bomber will hook you up with one of those, so you can
awesome.
you can be involved and spread the message that if the left votes, the left will win. Because we all know there's more lefties than righties out there. It's been a pleasure, Bomber. I love having you on board, man.
Thank you so much, guys. And also just a big shout out to you guys for taking the time to actually explain to people what National just did there. Because I don't think, I mean, just looking at the shallow coverage that you guys had to look at just in the opening of the show, no one's pointing out just how obscene this bloody thing is and how it's robbing from the vulnerable to pay for rich landlords. And the fact that you took the time to actually explain to the punters what the bloody hell just happened. Sometimes I feel that we get mugged by the media who just don't explain what the actual ramifications of something are. The fact that you've taken the time to explain the National Party tax policy and did it in such a great way. I mean, hats off to you guys. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And look, it's been popular. We've had one of our biggest live viewing audiences, of the time. So people are wanting it, Bomber. And this is the thing that we've talked about this before, that you see those right-wing sort of online independent medias having fucking literal advertising in the Herald, and you kind of go, you can see where their international dark money's coming from.
I saw that today.
I know, same. And now we're sitting here on the left trying to help and educate people as well. And it's just like, we can, if you buy a t-shirt, we might be able to stay for another night.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, dude. It's been a pleasure. We're going to wrap up completely now, Chewy. So we'll just say goodbye with Bomber here as well. Hit that like button.
Yes, guys. Be well. Have a great week. Hooray.
Yeah. Thanks, Bomber, mate. All the best.